Hi, this is Light Novel Sound, and welcome to Astral Pet Store. Get ready to embark on an intergalactic journey where we bring you unique stories, fascinating creatures, and otherworldly adventures. If you're a fan of fantasy, sci-fi, and unforgettable characters, you've come to the right place. On this channel, we dive into the exciting world of Astral Pet Store, where extraordinary pets with magical powers are sold in a far-out space market. Join our main character as they navigate the challenges of running a pet shop in the stars while discovering hidden secrets and forming strong bonds with their cosmic companions. A big thank you to the author Ancient She for bringing this amazing story to life, and be sure to check out the full novel at lightnovelworld.co to enjoy the entire adventure. If you enjoy adventures, quirky creatures, and unexpected twists, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new chapter of this stellar story. Chapter 211, Running into His Students. Few people were traveling on the highway. Su Ping would see vehicles driving toward the mysterious realm only occasionally. Su Ping saw the license plates and the way they were coming from and believed they had to be from the Longjiang base city. Several hours later, Su Ping rode on the Dark Dragon Hound and arrived at the explorer's base. This was a transfer station on the highway. Before he went within the limits of the base city, Su Ping sent the Dark Dragon Hound back into the pet space. The Dark Dragon Hound was so tired that it was out of breath. I must find a flying pet to use as my ride. When I become an advanced battle pet warrior, I will have the right to ride on flying pets inside the base city. With a flying pet, traveling around will be easier and faster, Su Ping said to himself. He looked at the sky. It was in the afternoon. Su Ping walked into the explorer's base. Su Ping planned to hitch a ride back to the Longjiang base city. That would be much easier than riding on the Dark Dragon Hound, and he could go into the city directly. After all, no one other than Master Battle Pet Warriors was allowed to ride on pets on the ground inside the base city. Unless necessary, most of the Battle Pet Warriors were unwilling to swagger their way around in the base city while riding on their pets. I wonder if Yi Chenshan and Luo Gushu are back. Su Ping went into the base and walked along the chaotic roads. The explorer's base had been established in the wild. Since dead beasts were being transported in and out, the streets were messy, tainted with blood while foul smells wafted in the air. There were some stalls on the two sides of the streets, set up by some explorers who were there to sell some rare materials harvested from the beasts they had caught, like venom sacs, fangs, etc., and other stuff that could be used on weapons. Some venom sacs from rare poisonous beasts were in popular demand. Su Ping planned to find Luo Gushu. She was a teacher at the academy and also lived in the base city, so he could ask her to drive him back. Not long afterward, Su Ping heard some familiar voices at an entrance to an alley. Captain Zhu, this is not fair. Right. We are students, newcomers if you will, but we have made our contributions along the way. Miss Su's lightning rat killed several advanced beasts, but you don't want to share any merit points. This is outrageous. At the alley, several people were standing there. They seemed to be from the same team. Close by, four were standing on one side. They were all in their early 20s. Very young and with pale, soft skin. One look and Su Ping could tell that they weren't seasoned explorers that would frequent the barren lands. Su Ping could still see signs of their good lives in the city. Facing them were 5 people, both male and female. They were wearing armor of different styles. Su Ping noticed that those people were capable and experienced. Their leader was a bulky middle-aged man with claw marks and wounds on his arms. They gave him a ferocious look and were basically his medals of honor. At the moment, he was pulling a long face as the 2 girls were arguing with him. His eyebrows were tightly knit. Hen, stop it. You are just students. You should feel grateful enough that some teams are willing to take you and train you. How dare you ask for merit points? You wish. A young man with short hair and a sour face seemed to be short-tempered. He glared at the 4 students. Of the 4 students, 3 were girls and 1 was a boy. This boy was taken aback. Along the way, the young man had been gentle to them. However, the same young man turned hostile the moment they began to talk about merit points. The boy argued, "Our academy has already paid you for taking care of us. We killed beasts, so we should have merit points. It's still within reason that you would want a bigger share of points, but to leave none for us? How greedy of you! Are you saying distribution according to work? Who gave you the right to talk about this? You dragged us down the entire way. How dare you talk about work?" A lady with black hair sneered. She had an old scar which made her pretty face look twisted. "Dragging you down? Yes, there were some small troubles caused by us when there were things we didn't understand, but none of them were fatal. Besides, we obeyed you in every way throughout the entire journey, and never acted without consulting you." The youngest girl of the 4 students said furiously, "During the battle against the flare elephant, could we have exterminated all the beasts if it weren't for the fact that the lightning rat distracted the other 2 beasts? Besides, the lightning rat killed several advanced beasts on its own. You should at least give us the merit points for those kills, don't you think?" The bulky middle-aged man who was the leader appeared to be even unhappier. Those students had indeed behaved along the way. He thought that he could bluff his way and easily finish the journey. However, the youngest girl had stood up, and that riled up the other 3 students. They began to argue. The one person who had spoken the least was the girl who owned the freaky lightning rat. She had been quiet, not being the kind that liked to stir up trouble. "Are you done?" the middle-aged man said. His voice was low, but it contained violence that came into being after his years of battling. The angry girl and the boy stopped, clearly scared by this. They were enraged, but they could read the room. The bulky middle-aged man was the captain, and he was at the 7th rank. 1 rank above, and he would become a master battle pet warrior. His main pet was Formidable, a pet at the intermediate position of the 8th rank from the demon family. He could easily defeat all of them. The quiet girl looked up when she heard the middle-aged man's voice. She stepped forward in front of her peers and looked into the eyes of their bulky leader. The middle-aged man pulled a long face as he sensed the girl's attitude. He was a bit wary of the girl's unusual lightning rat. That being said, it was a low-rank pet after all and could not stand a chance in front of his 8th-rank battle pet. "You newcomers know nothing about rules. Your first trip should just be one where you learn things from the team. How dare you ask for merit points? Do you want the merit points that badly? Do you have no concerns for the future? Don't you want to be explorers?" The middle-aged man cautioned the students coldly. He viewed himself as their superior. Those words saddened the 4 students. 3 of the 4 students were at a loss for words. They didn't ask for merit points from the very beginning just because they had such concerns. After all, they were about to graduate and become official explorers. The other was just a freshman. "Are you jealous because we had a fruitful journey and got many merit points? Remember, without us, you would never make it back alive." The middle-aged man thought he had successfully awed those students. The students again kept silent. The middle-aged man said in a calmer tone, "But, you did make some contributions during this trip. At the very least, you didn't slow us down too much. The 3 of you will take 1,000 merit points, and Su Yangying, you will have 2,000. End of discussion." The 4 students were furious. They were unhappy about how the merit points had been distributed between them, but there was nothing they could do. A girl bit her teeth and clenched her fists. She wanted to say something, but she knew that they couldn't do anything about it. At the moment, she realized all of a sudden that she couldn't earn a place in the world even with all the knowledge from the academy. Only the fist could get her the power. All of a sudden, someone said with a chuckle, "Look at you." "Hi everyone." All of the 9 people were surprised by this chuckle. They turned around and saw a young man approaching. The middle-aged man frowned. They didn't know this person, but they could tell that he was most likely a student acquainted with the other 4 by gauging his age. Su Yangying and the other students opened their eyes widely. They were astonished after seeing this young man. Him? The 4 students stood there in a daze. The youngest girl was the most shocked of all. Never did she expect to meet him there. Shouldn't her despicable brother be at the store? "Sir." "Sir?" said the boy and the other girl with long legs. They had met Su Ping, the well-known teacher in the academy. What a small world. Mr. Su? Su Yangying was surprised. She, like all the others, never thought she could see Su Ping there. She thought that Su Ping would always curl up in that small store of his despite the powerful abilities he had demonstrated. Chapter 212. Desire to Kill. What are you doing here? Su Yangying asked. Su Ping smiled. I had some business to take care of here. I thought you were in the barren area. Why? Are you trying to evade work? Su Yangying thought that since Su Ping was a teacher at the academy and had many connections, it wouldn't be strange for him to be there. After all, several other teachers at the academy were part-time explorers as well. Sir, we finished our training and have just returned to rest. The boy was Lu Pengfei, who frequented Su Ping's store. Meeting Su Ping there came as a surprise to him as well. He was glad because of this encounter, so he explained the general situation to Su Ping at once. Su Ping nodded, then he threw a look at his sister Su Lingyu. Su Lingyu sensed Su Ping's glance. She was having mixed feelings. She wanted to tell Su Ping about the situation they were in previously. She had seen what Su Ping was capable of in the academy, and he was clearly better than this Captain Ju. However, having experienced this exploration and what happened a moment before, she had gained a better understanding of the world. It was a complicated place. Reasons alone could not ensure that she could win, and neither could violence. Sometimes, connections and influences could be used as intimidating weapons as well. She didn't want to create trouble for Su Ping. After all, this team was made up of senior explorers. People often said that even a mighty dragon would not attack a snake in its own haunts. Although Su Ping was powerful, they were at the barren area, he would probably take a beating if they fought. Su Ping was surprised to see Su Lingyu hesitating. He was waiting for her to tell him about what she had experienced, but she held back that urge, much to his surprise. Su Ping thought he knew Su Lingyu. She was a girl with pride. She would hate injustice like poison and be hot-tempered. She couldn't tolerate any unfair deeds. It was out her character to refrain from going to him, to complain tearfully about what had happened to her. Was it because she wanted to save her dignity since there were others present? Or was something else bothering her? Su Ping looked into her eyes and then turned away. How was your stay there? Did you find anything you didn't like? Lu Pengfei threw a glance at Captain Ju. He wished to speak but stopped on second thought. Eventually, Lu Pengfei forced a smile and said, "It was fine. It was certainly an enriching experience." His tone sounded strange when he said the last two words. He was implying something else. The long-legged girl next to him was sizing Su Ping up and down curiously without saying anything. It was her first time seeing this popular teacher from the academy. Everything about him was interesting to her. Su Yangying shook her head. She didn't want to bother Su Ping because of some personal matters. She said, "We did well there. Speaking of which, I must thank you, Mr. Su, for the lightning rat you trained for me. It saved me many times." Su Ping gave them a good look. He was amazed to see how all of them could fight back the urge to complain. They must have grown during this time. That being said, while they were not willing to speak of their troubles, he couldn't pretend he didn't see his little sister being bullied. Granted, his sister was naughty, mischievous, and would usually not take his side. "I heard you were talking about merit points and how the distribution was uneven. Tell me about it. I'll help you out." Su Ping went straight to the point and fixed his eyes on Su Lingyu. The four students didn't know that Su Ping had heard their conversation. The four could understand it, though. Given Su Ping's abilities, to observe them without them knowing was a piece of cake. Lu Pengfei and the girl with long legs looked at each other, hesitating. They, too, didn't wish to bother Su Ping. At the same time, they were worried that although Su Ping could help them out this time, in the future, someone was bound to plot against them in secret. The one-time help would be meaningless because it wasn't a solution to the root problem. Su Lingyu could tell what Su Ping was thinking by looking at his eyes. She didn't always see him eye to eye, but she knew him well enough to tell his thoughts from his expression. "Well, brother. Here's the thing. The academy assigned us to Team Nightwolf to train with them in the barren area. There, she quickly told him the story. Su Yangying, Lu Pengfei, and the other girl were stunned still as soon as the word brother was uttered. Brother? They looked at each other in confusion. Then, they shifted their focus to Su Ping and then to Su Lingyu. All of a sudden, they realized Su Ping and Su Lingyu shared the same surname. Upon a closer check, they found how they looked similar. He was her big brother. The three students were speechless. Look at the genes of this family. Su Ping was freakishly powerful and his sister was currently the best student in her grade. The three students were green with envy. Captain Zhu and his team members pulled long faces. Su Ping had made them feel uncomfortable the moment he showed up. They found it strange when they heard the students addressing Su Ping as Sir. They could tell from Su Ping and Su Lingyu's words that the trouble they had just solved had become more bothersome. The five of them coldly sized Su Ping up and down. Su Lingyu had finished with her explanation. Zhu Feng intervened before Su Ping could say anything. I said just now that the discussion has ended. We have given you merit points. Do you honestly want to pursue this? Since she had told the story, Su Lingyu decided not to exercise forbearance any longer. She exclaimed in anger, we made 3.67 million merit points in total, and you're planning on giving us 1,000 each and 2,000 to Su Yangying. That is only 5,000. Who are you trying to fool here? The several 7th-rank beasts that Su Yangying's lightning rat killed are worth over 1 million merit points. Zhu Feng's eyes were glowing coldly. Be glad that we're willing to give you some merit points. You're asking for your doom. Your name is Su Lingyu, right? I won't forget that. You! Su Lingyu was fuming with anger. Su Ping jumped in at the moment. With a smile, he asked, you will not forget her name. Then what? Zhu Feng turned to Su Ping. He knew Su Ping was her brother, but that wasn't a source for worry since Su Ping was way too young. Zhu Feng sneered. You're her brother? Have you graduated? When will you join us in the barren area? I will show you what. Then show me now. Su Ping chuckled. The sneer on Zhu Feng's face vanished instantly and killing intent oozed out from his eyes. Astral powers were surging around him. The year's experience of battling in explorations gave him a threatening feeling, as if he were a vicious monster. Some beasts with acute perception would flee as soon as they detected the violence he exuded. How foolish this punk is! The students are stepping out of line these days. He's doomed. Does he think this is school? He knows nothing. When you enter the barren lands in the future, we can find countless ways to make you vanish from the world. You should have done your homework before you stirred up this mess. Those standing next to Zhu Feng were gloating, taunting Su Ping and Su Lingyu. They felt sorry for those gullible and naive students that had just left the ivory tower. Su Ping was still wearing that gentle smile, but the look in his eyes had turned cold. He looked directly at Zhu Feng. The desire to kill that he had pushed to the depths of his heart was swarming out. Murderous intent began to show in his dark, deep eyes. Chapter 213, Violence and Solution. Zhu Feng never intended to resort to violence right there. A little bluff to show who was boss should have been enough. But as soon as he saw Su Ping's eyes, he felt showered by frigid fear, as if he were looking at a viper about to pounce at his throat. Something told him that the man in front of was not human at all. That was a vicious monster who had just climbed out of the underworld. Grim and merciless. Su Ping slowly turned to look at Zhu Feng's friends, who all looked ready to humiliate the students moments before. Slap! Slap! Without any forewarning, each of the 4 team members received a loud and solid slap in the face, which left a red, palm-shaped bruise behind. It took them a full second to register the pain, before they hastily put up their astral shields and warily looked around to find out who had just done that. Zhu Feng's proud look slowly changed into fear, as he was pretty sure that Su Ping was the culprit, even though he didn't see him move, either. The students also knew what was going on somewhat. Of course, they felt really good seeing their adversaries be disgraced like this. Team Nightwolf, right? How much merit did you get again? 3.6 million? Sure. I won't ask for too much. Give us 3 million and I'll let things slide. You can keep the rest. I'm pretty generous, you know? Su Ping didn't know, nor did he care how many merit points Su Lingyue's group was due. Since this settler team could shamelessly and unfairly take away most of the points, he could definitely repay in kind. But what about rules? There were no rules in the settler base. People spoke with their strength. They always did. Ju Feng grimaced. Who the heck are you? Su Ping didn't care. You know what? I won't even bother telling you, a hole. Ju Feng felt his concentrated rage almost seeping through his skin, but he still managed to stay put when he thought about Su Ping's invisible face slap that suggested high-level skills. Ju Feng didn't think Su Ping was enough to take all of his team members down, yet he didn't want to anger a man who was possibly a rich member of an influential clan. He looked at Su Ping directly in the eyes. We Team Nightwolf may not be one of the best, but we're still a silver tier team. Most people around here know our names. How about we both take a step back? I'll give these brats 1.5 million. That's the best compromise I can accept. Ju Feng didn't care about the points since 3 million didn't mean much to his team. Still, he couldn't hand everything over for real since that would surely stain their reputation. Your names, you say? Su Ping tried to make his mocking as clear as possible. How many people can remember the name of a second-rate team, I wonder? Come on, 3 million, full payment. I don't want to see a single point missing. If you don't agree, I'll just make sure your very few admirers never hear from you ever again. Ju Feng widened his eyes in shock. He had never expected Su Ping to go this far. Unfortunately, he was too caught up to remember that he was the one who had gone too far first by sending the students away without paying them. Ju Feng's teammates also grew furious when they all realized who had just assaulted them. Watch what you're saying, kid. Our team may be small, but we don't tolerate crooks like you. Want to tell us which clan are you from, coward? We'll back off if you truly are a bigwig or something. If not, stop acting like one. Despite their attitude, none of them did anything for real because they were also wary of Su Ping's big background like Ju Feng. Meanwhile, Su Yangying and her friends were also shocked to see the unknown side of Su Ping. I'm trying to end this matter in peace, but it seems you want it the hard way, heh? Ju Feng had decided to go on the offense. Let me make it clear then, I won't give a fucking cent to you losers. Deal with it. Even though they were a small team, Ju Feng didn't wish to suck it up and take the shame when everyone was looking. He planned to find some connections later and perhaps reach a better solution with Su Ping in private. At the moment, however, he had to win the dispute in the open. Su Ping grinned. I'll deal with you, sure. The astral power around Su Ping took form and became a large hand which was launched toward Ju Feng's position. Ju Feng felt both surprised and glad that Su Ping made the first move in this settler base. Now he had an excuse to act in self-defense. Ha! You asked for it. He brought up the best combat skill he could use by coating his body inside an astral armor, before he charged at Su Ping. Let me show you how to properly fight someone up close dash. Bang! He didn't get to approach Su Ping before a giant force fell onto his head and slammed him to the floor. He collapsed face first into the ground, shattering both several stone bricks and his nose. Su Ping used astral telekinesis to pick up Ju Feng by a leg and swung his body around, before slamming him into the floor again, creating another crater. Ju Feng did not and could not retaliate during the whole process. The first hit on the head almost knocked him out. The second impact made sure he would stay out cold for a while. Ju Feng's teammates watched with terrified looks as their captain was flailed in the air by something they couldn't see, while Su Ping stood there completely unmoving. The students more or less expected such a result, but this didn't prevent them from marveling at Su Ping's strength again. A moment before, they thought they were just inexperienced kids who had to bear with Ju Feng's bullying. But the big bully became the one being bullied. It's just a small punishment for offending a gold-tier settler. Su Ping looked away from Ju Feng and slapped one of Ju Feng's friends again using an invisible force, making the man lose several teeth. Payment. Now. None of Ju Feng's teammates responded, since they were still trying to figure out why their captain suddenly began hugging the floor by himself. Almost at the same time, they all thought about something that might have made this happen, which was the strength of a titled warrior. What Su Ping showed them was a common move used by titled warriors. But, a titled warrior? A young man who seemed to be in his 20s? A woman in Ju Feng's team trembled as she spoke up. You're a gold tier settler? A settler needed to earn a total of 5 million merit points to reach this tier. Each member in Ju Feng's team could receive about 500,000 points for their previous mission if they distributed the points evenly, meaning, they had to do the same thing 10 times to become gold tier settlers. 10 times didn't sound like much, but it was actually a hard thing to do. Their previous mission almost left them with casualties if not for Su Yangying's lightning rat assisting them. If they proceeded with 10 similar missions without getting good help, they would never come back alive to enjoy the rewards. The woman saw Su Ping giving her a cold gaze and quickly continued, The points have been deposited in the captain's account. He's the only one who can take them out. Su Ping frowned and remotely lifted Ju Feng again. His action just proved that he was indeed a titled battle pet warrior. Ju Feng's teammates were regretting their decision already. For many reasons, angering a young titled warrior could be several times worse than offending an older one. Su Ping slapped Ju Feng's face violently to wake the man up. Ju Feng slowly opened his eyes and looked around with a blank expression. It took him a moment to realize that he was floating in midair in a very awkward manner. Go! Don't waste my time. Su Ping put him down. Ju Feng felt his mind overwhelmed by great embarrassment for being defeated by a kid. But the burning agony all over his body quickly reminded him of what just happened. And the final balance left him with fear. A small part of him didn't want to admit that he had been knocked out by Su Ping in an instant. But the looks of his team members convinced him. Captain? We should do as he says, the woman suggested carefully. For a moment, Ju Feng couldn't trust reality anymore because this woman had always been the one who caused trouble to the team due to her bossy character. It was as if her inner core had been replaced all of a sudden. The other members also muttered to agree. None of them wanted to be the enemy of a titled battle pet warrior. Ju Feng took a deep breath. All right. We lost this one. Su Ping maintained his cold look. He didn't plan to let these people go on after this one. He was going to make sure they never gave him trouble again. It was wise to wipe out loose ends once and for all. He had learned it the hard way while exploring the dangerous cultivation plains. After all, humans weren't so different from beasts when it came to plotting. Or we could say that humans were even more dangerous. With Ju Feng in the lead, they silently went to a counter at the base for managing merit point transfers. Mr. Su. As soon they got in line, Su Ping heard a familiar voice calling his name. He saw Yi Chenshan, Luo Gushue, and Zhu Jing just nearby. Chapter 214, Helping Hands. Oh, you all came back. Su Ping felt somewhat glad that the other members in Nai Chenkong's team had made it back safe and sound. Also, he happened to have something to ask them. Similarly, all the others looked relieved to see Su Ping had also returned without a scratch. Good timing. Yi Chenshan smiled in a friendly manner. We just heard that the mysterious realm is going to be shut off ahead of schedule. We feared that you'd run into trouble if you stayed in there for longer. Su Ping raised an eyebrow. Shut off? Yeah. I think it's an urgent decision or something, answered Luo Gushue. The entrance will be closed off in 3 days. I think something unpredictable happened to the Dragon Tower. Because I cleared the final floor? Su Ping thought. This was bad news though. If whoever was administering the mysterious realm knew about the hidden legacy and how it could be found, they'd probably look for him. Or worse, they'd soon find out where he lived and ambush him at his home. Damn it. Then I should head straight back to the shop instead of going home. The mark will protect me in a pinch. As long as I get inside the shop, No one will be able to hurt me. Meanwhile, Ju Feng's team recognized the famous Team Polaris and felt even worse when they saw Su Ping talking to them like they were old friends. Fuck. Why didn't I just give these damned kids more points and shoo them off? Ju Feng mentally complained with a wry face. That would have spared us all the trouble. It was too late though. He had to go with the second plan, which was to find help to negotiate with Su Ping in private and hopefully erase his grudge via a sincere apology or something. He could accept the beating as long as this matter ended without further complications. All the students had learned the names of the prominent teams before making the trip, so they already recognized the famous Team Polaris as well as an advanced teacher from their academy. They dreamed of joining a prestigious team in the future. Hey brother, what's this mysterious realm? Su Lingyu tugged Su Ping's clothes. Su Ping found it funny that his sister was acting so carefully here when she was an unruly little imp back home. He put up the friendliest smile he could manage and looked at her. Not gonna tell you. Su Lingyu seemed to want to protest but held back. Yi Chenshan and his friends had just realized that Su Lingyu had a sister. They silently kept her name in mind as they believed that this girl might be their ticket to get closer to Su Ping in the future. Besides, joining barren area expeditions at such a young age only meant that Su Lingyu had great talent as well. Su Lingyu noticed the other's attention and blushed. She was smart enough to understand that it was her stupid brother who had given her a chance to get this close to the members of Team Polaris. She had always feared that this useless brother of hers would bring her problems by causing trouble outside. Never in her life would she expect that it would turn out to be the opposite. Guess I was wrong about him after all. Of course, she wouldn't admit that out loud. I think I heard about such a thing once, said Lu Pengfei. It's usually the best teams or settlers who are able to go there. You guys know Yi Hao? He didn't join any barren expeditions because he went to the mysterious realm. Or so I heard. Did you go there as well, Mr. Su? Man, you're way ahead of us. Again. Yi Chenshan looked at the group behind Su Ping who seemed to look rather glum for some reason. And they are? Ah, good timing. I need some help regarding these people. Su Ping glanced at Ju Feng's group. They call themselves Team Night Wolf. They immorally took merit points that are rightfully my sister's, and also threatened her. Now here I am, getting some justice done. My sister and her friends will be joining a lot more missions around here. Hope you guys can look after them when you can. Yi Chenshan already knew what was going on because such things were pretty common between settler teams and students. He gave Ju Feng an unfriendly glimpse. Scamming academy students? That makes you happy, heh? Ju Feng put up a sad smile. Mr. Yi, this is all a huge misunderstanding. We already agreed to pay compensation. You're Mr. Su's acquaintance, no? I'd appreciate it if you can help me talk to him and find out how to amend our mistake. We'll do anything we can. Yi Chenshan looked at Su Ping, hoping to learn his opinion. Su Ping was just planning to stalk these guys and deal with them one by one once they reached somewhere private. Though he no longer had time for that when he had to return to his shop ASAP. Let's see. Mr. Yi, you said you owed me one and wanted to pay me back sometime, right? Here, I'll leave this matter to you. Yi Chenshan could see that Su Ping was angry since his sister had almost gotten hurt. He had no problem agreeing, but he was a little disappointed seeing that Su Ping was planning to use the favor for such a trifling thing. I see. Yi Chenshan nodded. Sure, I'll handle the rest from here. Luo Gushue was already doing the job by yelling at Ju Feng, "They're MY students, you know that? Did you seriously take everything from them when they worked so hard? Who gave your team the right to harass innocent students like shameless rascals?" Ju Feng's lips twitched as he had been humiliated too many times that day. Still, there was nothing he could do against Luo Gushue's team. Under many pairs of watchful eyes, Ju Feng went to the counter and made the point transfer, before quickly making off with his team. Yi Chenshan watched them go with a frown. Mr. Su, trust me, I'll get to the bottom of this. Su Ping nodded and went to the counter as well. It was time to browse the merchandise and buy something. Chapter 215, A Huge Sum of Merit Points. Mr. Su, can you help us distribute those merit points? Su Yangying felt as if the 3 million merit points Ju Feng had transferred to her were like a hot potato. Making 3 million merit points was equal to killing 3 8th-rank beasts. For recently graduated explorers like them, 1 million merit points represented a considerable amount. Su Ping helped them obtain those merit points, and the amount was much larger than what they had expected. Besides, Su Lingyu was Su Ping's sister. How to distribute those merit points had become a conundrum. Su Ping could tell what was bothering her. Just distribute the merit points according to your contributions. Don't overthink it, Su Ping said. Su Lingyu forced a bitter smile. If they had only been given a small number of merit points, they could share them based on their contributions. However, the amount at hand was huge. If she were to distribute based on her contributions, she could pocket 1 to 2 million by herself, and that would make the others be envious of her. Those merit points were appealing to Lu Pengfei and the long-legged girl as well. But they had to discard this wish upon hearing Su Ping's words. They regretted not having performed better during their exploration. Su Lingyu noticed Su Ping wasn't speaking in her favor. She threw a look at him in confusion. She was neither happy nor disappointed. It was Su Lingyue's nature to be reasonable, and she found it normal that the distribution of the merit points should be based on their respective contributions. She just found it surprising that her despicable brother could be this fair. Since her 3 peers didn't disagree with Su Ping's words, Su Yangying came up with a proposal. Then, I will take 1 million merit points, Su Lingyu will take 800,000, and the 2 of you will each take 600,000. How is that? Lu Pengfei and the long-legged girl were relieved. The disparity between their shares was smaller than the two had thought. They could tell that Su Yangying did not strictly split up the merit points according to their contributions. If she had, the 2 of them would only get 3 to 400,000. Thank you, Yingying. Thank you. The long-legged girl and Lu Pengfei expressed their appreciation to Su Yangying. Su Lingyu was happy about the result, and she had a better impression of Su Yangying. Su Yangying felt a burden had been lifted off from her shoulders after seeing them so pleased. She knew she had done a good job splitting the merit points. She didn't take the full amount of what she deserved, but she did earn their trust, and they could be a part of her connections in the future. Yi Chenshan and Luo Gushue looked at each other and smiled. Both of them saw her in a favorable light, since she was smart, also had a high emotional quotient. They were done dividing the spoils, no merit points. Afterward, Su Ping logged onto the Explorer's Store's website and searched for the materials he was looking for. Many items were displayed on the webpage. They were dazzling to look at. What are you looking for? Su Lingyu asked curiously when she saw Su Ping browsing this webpage. Su Ping gave an ambiguous answer, a kind of material. A kind of material? Su Lingyu was even more puzzled. Yi Chenshan, Luo Gushue, and Zhu Jing were eager to find out what material could Su Ping need when he was already so powerful. All of a sudden, Lu Fengpei uttered his question with a trembling voice, Mr. Su, this number is your number of merit points. Su Yangying and the long-legged girl were surprised to see how worked up Lu Pengfei was. They shifted their looks to the screen as well. The number on the top column on the page caught their attention. The number was 432.9 million. All of them were stunned still. Su Lingyu darted a glance at the screen as well, and the number astonished her. Yi Chenshan, Luo Gushue, and Zhu Jing also took a look from the corner of their eyes. The 3 of them were equally shocked as they read the number. Su Ping had more than 400 million merit points? Even for them, gold-tier explorers that had built up their reputation for years, this amount of merit points was incredible. The 3 of them stared at Su Ping in utter astonishment. Su Ping didn't find the amount enormous. He had just traded a small part of the treasures he found in the mysterious realm. He could easily have much more merit points if he had traded some of the more advanced treasures. He had used those treasures to trade for merit points, just so that he could have the opportunity to buy the materials he needed for his body refinement. Su Ping just gave a brief reply to Lu Pengfei. He swiped the touchscreen to browse through the list of items. The list went on and on. In the store, Su Ping even found the life fruit that could cure his mom's unmentionable disease once and for all, and the longevity fruit that could increase people's life expectancy by 5 years. But the longevity fruit was only effective once for each person. Taking more of those fruits would be useless. Neither was expensive and could be purchased with over 1 million merit points. For the average explorers, earning 1 million merit points implied having to kill 1/8 rank beast. But in Su Ping's case, 1 million meant nothing. Su Ping bought the 2 of them and then scrolled down the page. Soon, he found the item he needed, Fire Crystal. That was from the heart of a beast at the peak of the 9th rank. The Fire Crystal contained rich and potent fire elements. 4 pets of the Fire family, eating the Fire Crystal would mean that they could rise by 1 rank directly, better understand fire-related skills, increase the strength of fire elements within them and make them more compatible to fire elements. The Fire Crystal was an extremely cherished item. The Fire Crystal's price was 3 million merit points. That was a price that Su Ping could easily afford. However, the color of this item was gray, indicating that it was sold out. What the heck? Su Ping was speechless. This was annoying and vexing. That was the last item he needed for the cultivation of the 2nd level of his solar bulwark. The item was extremely hard to find. Finally, he saw this item on the list, but it wasn't available. That was to say, he had to go to another channel. That would waste so much time. Su Ping took a deep breath to calm himself down. In frustration, Su Ping closed the webpage, logged off his account, and stepped aside. You can have the machine now. Su Ping heaved a sigh. By then, the others had calmed themselves down from the initial shock of seeing Su Ping's massive amount of merit points. Yi Chenshan noticed that the item Su Ping wished to buy was sold out and that he was disappointed. Yi Chenshan asked, "Mr. Su, are you in a hurry to get this item? Maybe you can go to some auctions to try your luck. Or, if it's more urgent, I can help you post a bounty mission, but that will cost you a huge amount of merit points." A bounty? Su Ping looked at him in confusion. That is right. We can publish the mission among the Longjiang City explorers. You can ask for the Fire Crystal itself or the whereabouts of the beast itself, Yi Chenshan explained. Su Ping was intrigued by this proposal. Then, let's ask for both. How do I do that? I will take care of it for you, Yi Chenshan answered, but if you are asking for the Fire Crystal directly, the reward would have to be, I suppose, over 10 million. On the other hand, if you are asking for the whereabouts of the beast, just over 1 million will be enough for the reward. Su Ping replied without any hesitation, let's ask for both. I don't mind the merit points. Yi Chenshan forced a smile. He knew this would be Su Ping's answer. Indeed, given the number of merit points Su Ping had, he could definitely afford this. Sure. Mr. Su, I will let you know as soon as I get some news, Yi Chenshan said. Su Ping nodded. Thanks. No problem. Yi Chenshan smiled. Luo Gushue added, maybe you can check the exchange office at the academy. Our academy knows some secret channels to collect some of the good stuff. I can give you some of my points if you don't have enough teachers. Points. Su Ping's eyes glowed. Indeed. Since he had become a teacher at the Phoenix Peak Academy, he had yet to obtain any benefits. Dong Mingsong had previously made the promise that he could use his points to redeem some of the treasures that were even hard to come across at the black market. He had never tried that. Perhaps he could find what he was looking for in the academy. Then Mr. Su, you can take a look at the academy and I will post the missions as well. If you can find it, tell me and I will call off the mission, Yi Chenshan said. Su Ping nodded. Trying several alternatives could increase the chances of success. Su Yangying and the students listened to the conversation with complicated feelings. It was as if they were in a different world. Su Yangying logged onto her account and quickly allocated the 3 million merit points. She logged off after having done that. Su Lingyu was thinking about logging onto her account but eventually didn't. She threw a glance at Su Ping and asked, "Did you buy the life fruit?" "Yes." "Is that for?" Su Lingyu sounded hesitant. Su Ping was speechless to her reaction. "Of course it's for Mom," Su Ping said grumpily. Su Lingyu had guessed that Su Ping had bought that for their mom. Buying the life fruit had always been her goal. Previously, she had worked up the courage to jump out and argue with Ju Feng regardless of the consequences just because she was desperate and wanted to take the chance to get the merit points so that Mom could recover sooner. It was just that, this difficult goal of hers had been achieved by Su Ping so effortlessly. Su Lingyu was a bit crestfallen. She had witnessed the sea changes in him time after time, but she could never get rid of the image she had of him from the time when they were kids. At this moment, Su Lingyu suddenly had the realization that her despicable brother had truly turned into the backbone of the family. For all those years, she had always been the pride of the family, her mom's pride. At the moment, she sensed that Su Ping would be the biggest pride of the family, and even she would be proud of him. Su Ping didn't know what Su Lingyu was thinking about while she was so quiet, and he did not bother to find out. He bid farewell to Yi Chenshan and Luo Gushue. "I have to go back to the base city now. Are you guys heading back?" Luo Gushue shook her head. "I have to take care of something else. I'll be back in a couple of days." "Me too," Yi Chenshan said. Su Ping asked again, "Can you let me borrow your car?" Yi Chenshan answered at once, "Of course. I can go back with Luo Gushue. You can take my car." "Okay." Su Ping didn't say thank you. He would just remember Yi Chenshan's kindness. Su Yangying, Lu Pengfei, and the long-legged girl also said goodbye to Su Ping. Su Ping nodded to them and told them about things to look out for while they were out exploring. Su Lingyu came back to her senses and mumbled goodbye to Su Ping. Su Ping had other ideas. "You're coming back with me." "Why?" Su Lingyu was surprised. "No reason." Su Ping was unwilling to go into the details. Su Lingyu found this strange. She looked into Su Ping's eyes and she could tell that he was not joking around. All of a sudden, she felt disturbed. But she didn't voice her confusion since there were others present. Having said their goodbyes, Su Ping took Su Lingyu to the car and drove away. "What is going on?" Su Lingyu was not in the mood to check out this car. She put forward her question as soon as they were outside the base. There was no one else around, and yet Su Ping didn't go into the details with her yet. "You know that I visited the mysterious realm and I may have upset some folks there. In case those guys want to get back at me, you and Mom will have to live in my store." Su Lingyu was taken aback. As far as she could tell, those that went to the mysterious realm were powerful people. Following that logic, the ones that Su Ping had provoked would surely be some bad characters. At the same time, she didn't understand the choice of Su Ping's words. "Why do you mean by saying you may have upset some folks? Can you not tell if you have upset people?" Su Ping cast a glance at her. "If you ask me, I'd say I didn't upset anyone. However, say, some ugly dudes are envious of your good looks and they want to get back at you. Would you say that you have upset them?" Su Lingyu was speechless. She had grown used to the fact that Su Ping never acted normally, so she knew this was his way of offering a metaphor. "That is to say, you meddled in someone else's interests." Su Lingyu figured out the reason quickly. Su Ping nodded. "You're not so stupid after all." Su Lingyu raised her eyebrows. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and huffed, "I am a genius. I am the number one in my grade. Never mind, I'm not in the mood to talk about this. Anyways, do you know who wants to get back at you? Are we supposed to hide like this forever?" Su Ping squinted. "I don't know now, but I will find out soon enough." Su Lingyu looked at him. She detected a sense of danger in his eyes, which startled her. She realized that this brother of hers was not an innocent person. He wasn't someone to be provoked. They drove into the base city. Several hours later, amid the roaring noises of the engine, they arrived at the Taohuaxi street of the lower town area. Su Ping began to pay attention as soon as they reached the street. If the background manipulator of the mysterious realm had found out who he was, that person might have already set up an ambush here. He didn't slow down and kept on sounding the horn. Luckily, the street was shabby and distant with few people present. Soon, they arrived at the store. The fact that nobody had intercepted them while on their way relieved Su Ping. Surely those people have yet to take action. He got out of the car, then he took out the keys and told Su Lingyu to enter the store with him. Su Ping closed the shutter door and said to Su Lingyu, "Go and call Mom. Tell her to come to the store." Su Lingyu became more nervous after seeing Su Ping acting so serious. She immediately called home. Chapter 216, Demigod Burial. Their mother answered the call right away. Su Lingyu made up a quick excuse to ask her to go to the pet shop. A moment after, Li Qingru showed up at the shop on hurried steps and threw Su Ping a worried glance, only to see her son sitting there just fine. "Lingyin? Didn't you say that your brother got injured? Something hit his head?" "Oh, well, he just came to." Su Lingyu didn't look embarrassed at all. Su Ping rolled his eyes after finding out about his sister's terrible lie. Since his family was finally there with him, he was less concerned about whether the unknown enemies would bother him or his family first. He assumed that the Avildor would soon find out everything about a poor family if they wanted, including his name and where he worked. They probably had no reason to go after his family first. "What's going on here?" Li Qingru looked at her children and demanded. Su Ping also tried thinking of an excuse since he couldn't tell his mother about the danger he was in. Mom? I'm planning to expand the shop a little. It's, well, important, so I hope you can come and maybe give me some advice." "Expand the shop?" Su Lingyu grew impatient and moved somewhere her mother couldn't see, before she told Su Ping to prepare their escape plan as fast as possible using eye contact. In her view, they had to make their getaway fast, rather wasting time talking about this small shop. Overhauling the shop sounded costly. Though she then believed that her brother had enough money for it after seeing him spending merit points like crazy. However, this wasn't the time for that. All of her moves were met with Su Ping's complete nonchalance. "But weren't you driving like a drunk just now?" She madly protested without any sound. "What's next?" Unfortunately, she had no idea that Su Ping's safe house was right there, at the shop. To Su Ping, this place was the safest in the whole world right at the moment. There was no point in wandering outside. But they couldn't live there together because it wouldn't be comfortable for 3 people to live in such a small space. Not to mention that there were a lot of things he didn't want to show his family, such as why he would often vanish into cultivation planes and pop back up again. To expand the shop was not entirely a lie, he needed it to accommodate his mother and sister. Money wasn't an issue at all since he had enough funds to buy this entire street for his own use. More so, doing this meant putting the whole place under the system's administration, by which time he could simply prepare another house for his family to live in, while the system would take care of any trespassers with bad intentions. But how would you? Unlike Su Pingyu, Li Qingru didn't think Su Ping had earned enough income for such a big plan. "I can take care of the money problems, Mom." Su Ping feigned a proud look. "You only need to sit here and help me keep an eye on things." Li Qingru didn't protest. She was ready to stop Su Ping from making any silly adjustments to the building. Su Lingyu was so anxious about the situation that she finally spoke out, "Are you sure it's time for this stuff?" "I know what I'm doing." Su Lingyu saw her brother's serious look and chose to trust him for now. "Mean to revamp the shop, like, right now?" "That is correct." "But how?" "I'll find help." "Who can help us?" "Professionals, of course." As he explained, Su Ping opened the main settler website on his computer, found the lodging tab, and began checking several business holders meant to help settlers with rents and housing affairs. Most of the time, those who did business with settlers were pretty reliable. Li Qingru couldn't see what her son was doing from her position. "Hold on, dear, we need to carefully plan ahead. You can't just look for companies you don't know well on the internet. I can help you ask around, you know." "There's no need, Mom. Just leave it to me. Time to let your son handle something important for once, don't you think? Li Qingru sat back. Su Lingyu moved closer to the computer and checked the page with a surprised look. Wait. I never knew they had these. This couldn't be helped since she had just become an intern settler. There was a lot about the settler base she had yet to learn. With quick moves, Su Ping made several orders with a few brokers who would help him negotiate with the neighborhood, whereas he would only need to pay the money. Even though some of the neighboring shops were probably not planning to sell their spots, they would sooner or later give in to real estate agencies who could force them to. After all, money worked wonders. Of course, he didn't actually plan to do any dirty business. He told the brokers to try offering thrice the original plot prices to buy them. As far as he could see, no one would reject such a grand offer. And even if someone did, he could just exclude those parts from his expansion plan. Should anyone wish to exploit his generosity by asking more than what they were promised, some dirty business wouldn't hurt then. That was about everything he needed to do. From here on, he only had to sit there and wait for his hired hands to deliver several new house deeds to him. To get the shop to level 3, a bigger business area was one of the requirements. He also needed to finish a special training order which was due in a month. It was time to get to it. Luckily, he was free to forbid people from entering the pet room. As long as he teleported to cultivation planes from there, he could avoid revealing his secret to his family. With this in mind, he stood up and spoke with a serious look. I need a few hours to tend to the pets. You two stay here and don't leave the shop no matter what happens. Li Qingru frowned. What do you mean? What's going to happen? Su Lingyu also looked doubtful, for she wasn't sure why her brother could find time to train pets at such a time. Still, she knew she could trust Su Ping. No problem. Let's take it easy for now, Mom. Su Ping added, don't answer any calls for any reason. People might come and claim that they want to do some business with you or such. Do not listen to them. Stay inside. Su Lingyu nodded again. She wondered if any of the guys Su Ping had just hired would show up, though she had no problem obeying Su Ping's orders, after witnessing many of his amazing feats. Seeing his sister had been persuaded, Su Ping closed the shutter of the shop, entered the pet room, and closed the door. So far so good. It never crossed his mind that he would bring back enemies by visiting the mysterious realm. Now he felt ever more eager to get stronger. Thankfully, all the treasures and merit points he had gained this time should be enough to help him to reach the titled Battle Pet Warrior rank. He just needed time. Meanwhile, he also had to help Little Skeleton absorb the Skeleton King bloodline as fast as he could since it was his best bodyguard. Though there was much to be done. Not to mention that he didn't know much about this ancient bloodline in the first place. This had left him with 3 important jobs: enlarging the shop, which was also their safe ground, finding materials to level up Solar Bulwark, and training Little Skeleton. Fortunately, he could take Little Skeleton along when doing the special training order, which meant doing 2 things at once. He had previously planned to visit mid to low-level cultivation planes to do the special training order. This might take him a lot of time and effort, but it would also save him energy points. However, time was of essence right then. He opened up the system menu and began looking at high-level cultivation planes. Each of those would cost hundreds or even thousands of energy points to enter. The name Demigod Burial caught his attention. The ticket price was 1,200 energy points, which was pretty cheap among all the high-level cultivation planes. Let me see here. A piece of forsaken land separated from the Archean divinity when a powerful god broke it away from its main continent. After that, it has always been drifting in the void. Wait, so this originally was part of the Archean divinity? The Archean divinity cultivation plane required 9,000 points to enter, while each death would further cost him 900 points. He couldn't afford that yet. This smaller place was acceptable though. Chapter 217, A Goddess. All right, I'll choose this demigod thingy. It's an ancient ground where gods and deities once lived. Pets of all types have a chance of taking in the divine energy left behind and grow strong. The problem was, the demigod burial had left its home since time immemorial. It remained to be found out whether any power of the gods still lingered. The pet he needed to train was a celestial pig, which meant that a cultivation plane with poison-type enemies was more suitable. Still, the demigod burial was not a bad choice since it was more or less an all-in-one solution for all kinds of pets except for undead-type pets, who wouldn't do so well against divine energy. It didn't matter though. Su Ping was hoping to take Little Skeleton to a harsh training environment since that would definitely help it grow strong faster. 120 points per death, that is to say, 12,000 astral coins down the drain if I kick the bucket. Su Ping clenched his teeth and confirmed the choice. Of course, he didn't forget to sign a temporary pet contract with the celestial pig and took it along before leaving. The pig had spent a few days in his shop while casually enjoying the rich energy inside a nursing pen. It seemed the creature had somehow reached the next phase of its current rank, while also gaining a new skill, Nightmare Prison. All of this happened while it slept. Nightmare Prison was a psychic-type skill, which was a strange thing to happen to a poison-type celestial pig. Although Su Ping was no longer surprised by such matters in his shop. The Dark Dragon Hound was supposed to be good at offense, yet it had mastered 5 different elemental shields to their max level, becoming quite the tank. Then there was the proud and merciless Inferno Dragon who had learned how to tread quietly by sticking close to the floor. Nothing could get weirder at this rate. Like always, a sudden vortex appeared in the room and drew him inside. He opened his eyes once he noticed the smell of flowers and was stunned to realize that he had been teleported to the middle of a garden. A rather big one at that. The floor beneath him was neatly paved with clean-cut stones, while several Greek-style stone columns were nearby. The plants and flowers were growing so nicely that they almost blocked his view. The remnant of a civilization. He gazed at everything in awe. After reading the name Demigod Burial, he was expecting some kind of old battlefield full of dead bodies or a gloomy graveyard, but not this. A colorful sea of flowers that looked like a hidden haven used by hermits. Was this place built by gods or something? Su Ping suddenly became more conscious of his lack of knowledge. As a modern citizen raised in a country without religious beliefs, the word God was not something he would come across often. He did run into a lot of similar entities inside the chaotic realm of the undead, but that wouldn't help him learn much about divinity. More importantly, who owned this garden? Were they still there? The system suddenly left a message in his mind. Host, you have reached a divinity-controlled plane. By divinity language skill? YN, how much? 10,000 energy points for the general language. You will be in need of others that belong to certain categories later, which will cost differently depending on the circumstances. Su Ping sighed in relief. The price sounded fine, since he was going to learn a whole language system even the best historians in his world might not know. Yes. Affirmative. Downloading. Su Ping felt how his mind was swelling with something he couldn't understand at first. Still, the process ended way faster than he had thought. Once he received the full knowledge of the language, he noticed that it was pretty simple. It was as if someone had invented a new tongue which was able to convey much more using fewer words, compared to modern languages. He felt as if he could shorten the complete works of William Shakespeare to several dozen pages if he wanted to. As soon as he learned this new language, he suddenly saw something white moving above him and heard a sweet voice talking. Strange, I smell insects nearby. It can't be. I just sprayed disinfectant around here. Su Ping looked up and realized that he was looking at a woman wearing a skirt from, well, directly under her. He felt his head turning hot at the sight. There was a giant lady almost 3 meters tall floating above him. Her soft, adorable skirt and that pair of smooth white legs were definitely enough to draw the inner beast out of most male creatures. Only that, Su Ping was not in the right position to admire her looks. The woman saw him down below. She spent a few seconds taking it in, before she covered her private spot and screamed at the top of her lungs. Su Ping felt his head getting dizzy due to the loud and sharp noise, which was followed by the flying woman's intense killing intent that had almost materialized around her. It's not my fault. You were like, moving to me on your own, right? Die, filthy clone. Seeing danger coming, Su Ping immediately summoned Little Skeleton and the Inferno Dragon to help him. As soon as the two pets showed up, a golden, crescent aura came and cut Little Skeleton, who had appeared a little farther from Su Ping, in half. The Inferno Dragon felt the compelling power contained within the attack and felt its very soul urging it to bow down and surrender to the giant woman. But as soon as it noticed that Su Ping was in danger, the instinct of protecting its master overrode its actions. Without waiting for Su Ping's order, the dragon charged into the blade-like aura. Chapter 218, A Talk. After countless battles, protecting Su Ping was a directive embedded in the Inferno Dragon's genes. Even at the risk of its own life. Roar! A trail of flames was discharged toward the girl, much like a column made of lava. At the same time, the Inferno Dragon charged forward and placed itself in front of Su Ping. Then, the Inferno Dragon was halved from its chest. The Inferno Dragon's hardest dragon scales were unable to stop that golden blade for one bit before it was cut open. Su Ping was startled. He didn't expect that this girl could be this horrifying. Still, his two pets had bought him some time. Astral powers were surging inside him. Thanks to the star prism, his baseline astral powers at the upper position of the 4th rank were catapulted to the intermediate position of the 7th rank. Adding the leverage provided by the solar bulwark at the final moment, Su Ping managed to dodge to the side. Boom! The ground in the garden caved in deeply. Su Ping felt something strange on his arm. He lowered his head to look, only to find he had lost his left arm. I didn't mean, Su Ping screamed in misery. He didn't want to die a meaningless death which would cost him 120 energy points. He was speechless. What was this about? He was going to die right upon arrival and this death was going to be pointless. Good, you low-life duplicate, mixing up with the dirty undead being and a dragon slave. No wonder you belong to the mean, inferior race. Go to hell. The girl was furious. She waved her fingers and again, 2 rays of golden energy dashed out. The little skeleton, which had been cut open, quickly reassembled its body and pressed forward again. Su Ping revived the Inferno Dragon that had just been killed on the spot. Luckily, reviving pets was free. Otherwise, he would never be able to afford this training. Roar! The Inferno Dragon had yet to figure out what was happening as it had been brought back to life when it felt the killing intent that Su Ping had cast. This was to help the Inferno Dragon engage in the battle as soon as possible. What? The girl was startled to see the Inferno Dragon coming back to life on the spot. She would not find it strange that the skeleton could come back to life. After all, that was the skill of that kind of dirty being. She did not, however, expect that this dragon could be brought back to life, and it was not an illusion. Being a member of the god race, she had a clear sense of life energy. She had registered how the Inferno Dragon had died, including its soul. Besides, as the dragon was coming back to life, somehow, she picked up a clue of some horrifying energy, as if time and space were trembling. But the being that could affect time and space had gone still since a long time ago. She was no longer possessed by anger, doubts took over in its place. At the moment, the Inferno Dragon had once again put itself in front of the golden blades and again the Inferno Dragon was cut into 2 pieces. The little skeleton had dashed to the girl and was about to cut her face with its bone blade. The girl came back to her senses. She saw the bone blade that was about to land on her face. All of a sudden, she picked up some residual energy of a threatening presence inside the bone blade. That energy was hidden deep within. This piece of bone seemed to have belonged to some horrific creature. But the threatening presence was long gone from the bone. The girl was appalled. This skeleton was not something she could belittle. Besides, she had a faint sense that there was a horrifying voice roaring inside the skeleton and that voice seemed to have originated from the skeleton's blood, which was astonishing. The girl raised her hand, slapping the little skeleton away, and grabbed its bone blade. She observed it and realized the bone blade was made of a bone fragment. She tried to cut herself with the blade. A drop of blood that was golden in color dripped down. The blade could hurt her. This shocked the girl. She threw a glance at the little skeleton that had already reassembled after she crushed it and the inferno dragon that had recovered. The astonishment in her eyes was even more prominent. Eventually, she shifted her focus to the young human being. "Who are you?" Su Ping was relieved to see that the girl finally stopped her attacks. He produced a forced smile. "I didn't do any of it on purpose." Su Ping's words reminded the girl of that previous incident. She blushed as she said angrily, "That is not my question. Who are you? How did you get in here? Tell me the truth or you'll end up in a living hell." The words living hell worried Su Ping. He wasn't afraid of dying, but he was afraid of being imprisoned. That would waste his time training. That being said, given his powers, he could kill himself, sudden and swift. Besides, with the help of the little skeleton, suicide was easy. Well, that shouldn't be a thing to be proud of. Su Ping had experienced many fights against powerful creatures. From the girl's strikes, Su Ping estimated that she might have a power on par with beast kings. If she were equal to a king of kings, then she wouldn't need to take any actions. Just one look could have imprisoned and crushed him. That was why Su Ping didn't choose to run away at once. He couldn't defeat beast kings, but he could strive to kill himself. "Well, do you belong to the god race?" Su Ping asked the girl curiously. "Of course," the girl said without thinking. "Answer my question first." Su Ping was amazed by the answer. This girl was of the god race. He was surprised by the looks of gods that only existed in legends. They looked almost like humans did, except for their size. This girl was a bit too sturdy. Also, Su Ping thought that gods should be supreme beings. However, this girl only had a beast king's power level. That was to say, gods weren't all that formidable. "What is going on in that head of yours?" The girl bellowed since Su Ping had not said anything for a while. Su Ping came back to his senses. "Well, your questions are complicated and it will be difficult for you to understand my answers. To put it simply, I was teleported here from another world. Do you believe me?" "Of course," the girl answered. That was not the answer Su Ping was expecting. "This is my garden. Aside from teleporting here directly, there's no other way that you, a vulnerable being, could have come here unless you're a bug grown out of the weeds in my garden." The girl sneered. Su Ping was speechless. He mumbled, "But my point is that I am from another world, not the fact that I was teleported here." "What's so strange about that?" the girl said in contempt. She must be very informed. The universe is infinite. Apart from the central divinity where we stand, there are many smaller worlds around us, inhabited by lower beings like you. Tell me, which small world are you from? Who sent you here? What for?" Su Ping was taken aback. The education gods received was different from what humans received. She could readily accept such an outrageous matter. If he were to tell anyone on the blue planet, they would think he had gone nuts. Keeping the shock to himself, Su Ping said, "You just mentioned the central divinity. Have you been to the Archean divinity?" From the introduction of this demigod burial, Su Ping had learned that this site had been around for countless years, with a history longer than that of the blue planet. But this girl didn't appear to have lived for that long. Archean divinity. The girl was surprised to hear this. As such, she couldn't help but give Su Ping a closer look. "I didn't think that an insignificant being such as you would know about the Archean divinity." "Him. But you know too little. The Archean divinity was closed off a long time ago. No creature outside is allowed entrance. If I could go to the Archean divinity, even for a couple of days, I could have killed you with one look." "Closed off?" Su Ping was baffled. He recalled when he was looking at the list of cultivation sites. The Archean divinity was not closed off. Only the admission price was too high. On the other hand, the girl didn't seem to be lying. Either the Archean divinity had opened up again and she didn't know, or the system's access path was different from the usual one. That is to say, this demigod burial is the central divinity that you have just mentioned. To be worthy of this name, this area must be huge, right? Su Ping questioned. Demigod burial? The name puzzled her. Chapter 219, Pursuit. Where did you hear that? It came as a surprise to the girl that Su Ping would know this. She gazed at him fixedly. All of a sudden, she felt she couldn't read this human being. As for the ancient secret of the name Demigod burial, not even some of the advanced members of the god race knew about it. That secret of critical importance was related to the origin of this divinity. It involved the most supreme gods. For all this time, this name had been viewed as classified information. Naturally, it was shocking that a low human being like Su Ping could utter those words. She wondered if Su Ping had obtained a few isolated words and phrases from some ancient heritage sites. Maybe Su Ping had gone there to take advantage of this information and blackmail her. Su Ping noticed that something was off in the way she was looking at him. He realized that the information he received from the system with such ease could be regarded as desperately serious by the indigenous residents. He didn't dive deep into this topic and tried to steer the conversation toward another direction. I heard it from someone else. Well, if it's okay with you, could you please give me an introduction to this place and send me away? If not, I can leave by myself. The girl fixed her eyes on Su Ping. You heard it from someone? What is your agenda? Don't make me throw you into the sin prison. Even gods would have to beg for mercy and wail there. You won't be able to get out even if you want to. Su Ping was interested in this. Is that like prison cells or something? Can people train there? The girl was startled to see the glow of interest in Su Ping's eyes. She wasn't sure if she should feel glad or vexed. Even gods and some extremely violent and wicked beasts would shudder to hear the words sin prison. That was the most horrific place for the god race, where the criminals would receive the most tragic torture. Some gods would rather die than stepping into the sin prison. They would turn pale as soon as they heard the name. However, threats were of no use to this human being. She could tell from Su Ping's eyes that he had asked a question from his heart and he wasn't faking his interest. This human was honestly unaware of the sin prison's atrocities. Or, was he looking forward to such a terrifying place? The girl was grinding her teeth in fury. But she had enough sense to calm herself down. Even though she had failed to threaten Su Ping, she did collect a piece of useful information from Su Ping's reaction. That was, Su Ping was most likely telling the truth. Only people who had teleported to that place from other worlds would be unaware about the sin prison and its horrors. Also, this other world had to be far, far away. The girl reviewed Su Ping's behavior. This human being had appeared at this place and that fact was odd and unbelievable. He could bring that degrading dragon slave back to life and that was something even the most supreme gods would find difficult to replicate. She could bring herself to believe that there was a supreme god supporting this human being. Why would a supreme being care about a puny human being? A noble princess would not cast a second glance at the less fancy clothes, let alone picking up a rotten fruit pit from the ground. That being said, if there was no supreme being in the picture, the girl was unable to find another explanation for the dragon coming back to life on the spot. Su Ping, as a human being, surely didn't master the skill to revive the dead all by himself. The girl was struggling inside. She wanted to capture Su Ping immediately and interrogate him about his secrets. At the same time, she was worried about the mysterious being hidden behind this human. She even wondered if some rebellious forces were trying to achieve something and interfere with the current situation of the divinity by using Su Ping. Her eyebrows tightened even more as she thought of the current situation in the divinity. Su Ping became a bit scared since the girl had gone silent and had been blinking. He could not tell what she was thinking about. She was part of the god race after all and could execute him at any time. Never mind. I don't think I can find any answers. I think I should kill myself and get away, Su Ping said to himself. He then took another look at the girl. Her mind was drifting away. Taking advantage of this moment, he mobilized his astral powers and shouted. The girl was alerted by his voice. She came back to her senses, only to see Su Ping smiling at her, waving as if saying goodbye, and then spat out blood. What? Then, Su Ping collapsed to the ground. He turned colder and life slipped away from him. The girl was stupefied. What was that? Did he kill himself? The girl couldn't understand what was going on. She had been through many possible scenarios, and the only thing she had never imagined was that the human would have sacrificed his life before she did anything to capture him. A moment later, the girl sensed that the life energy was completely gone from Su Ping, and she made sure that the human being was not faking his death. She placed her hand on Su Ping's dead body to feel it. His internal organs had ruptured, including his heart. It was suicide. How cruel Su Ping was to himself. The girl kept silent for a long time. She was confused. What is the meaning of this human coming here? Was he a man of sacrifice? But he had said nothing, and neither had he obtained information from her before he killed himself. How unprofessional for a sacrificial pawn. While she was still trying to figure this out, she felt something was moving under her hand. The next moment, she felt something was disturbing her heart. It was because of the tremor in space and time. When she lowered her head, to her astonishment, she found that Su Ping's dead body had been transformed into flakes of starlight, later vanishing into the void. While the dead body disappeared, the ever-constant space and time fluctuated a bit. A moment later, everything quieted down in the garden. There was no corpse. Not even a trace of blood remained. Only the deep pit on the ground told her that the battle had indeed happened. The girl gazed into the pit and slowly gathered her thoughts. Everything that happened was like a dream. If it weren't for that pit, she would have thought she was hallucinating. The turbulence in space and time, the dragon, the sudden suicide, the girl mumbled. She reviewed all the pieces in her mind. All of a sudden, she found a string that could piece all those clues together. She had an epiphany. She understood why he killed himself. He is alive. He just left here via suicide. He can come back to life. The girl turned around all of a sudden and gazed into the horizon. Under the sky, the city was vast and unbounded. A large population resided there. His revival spot is not far away from here. I must catch up with him. He knows the origin of the divinity, and there's the mysterious being helping him. I must get to the bottom of this. I must find out his real purpose for coming here. The girl bit her teeth. She vanished from her garden and then dashed toward a certain direction. Chapter 220, City of Gods. For obvious reasons, Su Ping chose to be revived at a random spot. When his vision cleared, he saw greenery and flowers around him. He was worried that he had been put back inside the garden again. But after a more careful look, it wasn't a garden anymore, but an untended flowerbed grown on the side of a mountain. In the great distance to his left, he saw a huge city enclosed inside white castle walls that glowed with energy runes. The walls were too high for him to see what was inside the city, except for the tips of several exceptional large buildings and another mountain located at the center of the city, on which more structures lined along each other. Su Ping took a moment to admire the magnificent city. He didn't know what that place was, though he was sure that it had to be well populated and flourishing. Was that a city of gods? Since a random revival would not place him too far from his point of death, he wondered if the strange garden was right inside that city, while he had just been taken out from there. If so, then it would be better not to approach the city to prevent the goddess from finding him again. Still, he didn't think that was possible. He was confident that his fake death could have easily fooled her. He decided to look for a place to fight monsters for the moment. If he still had time to spare once the training was done, he'd return and take a look at this otherworldly city, and perhaps check out what the lives of the locals looked like. After all, coming across a city of gods was a rare opportunity. Having made up his mind, he summoned all his 4 pets and began heading to the other side of the mountain. A civilization, eh? And a divine civilization at that. Maybe these cultivation planes are real worlds that exist somewhere, and not virtual spaces forged by the system. This place was quite a different sight when compared to the other planes he had visited in the past, which were all about deadly environments and even deadlier monsters that wanted him dead. He suspected that the local civilization might be even more advanced than his home. And if this place did exist somewhere in the unexplored universe, it meant he might visit this place again in the future without using the system. To think that both the chaotic realm of the undead and the Archean divinity were real places as well. This was beginning to get scary. In comparison, his home planet was tiny. And even when he was on his home planet, he was a vulnerable guy who had to depend on the system's protection to survive. There was much he had to do to become stronger. Becoming a legendary warrior could be a start. Then, I must aim for something better. He felt great determination swelling up in him all of a sudden. The purple python had carried him to the base of the mountain, ahead of which lay a borderless desert where he caught a glimpse of huge bones randomly scattered about that were larger than some of the biggest aircraft carriers he had seen in movies. He asked the Dark Dragon Hound and the Inferno Dragon to take the front. The pets seemed reluctant at first when they sensed the dangerous air up ahead. Though they still had to obey Su Ping's orders. The Dark Dragon Hound kept its nose on the ground in order not to miss any signs of threats, while the Inferno Dragon also lowered its stance and awkwardly tip-clawed on the sand in a very UN dragonly manner. After proceeding for a few kilometers, the Dark Dragon Hound suddenly sank into the sand as its body had been captured by a large, mouth-like trap that instantly crushed its 5 elemental shields. The Inferno Dragon jumped, before it saw what was going on and rushed to help its comrade. However, it didn't get to move too far before a whip shot out of the ground and knocked it aside. Meanwhile, the Dark Dragon Hound soon stopped struggling as its body was snapped in half. Su Ping frowned and resurrected the hound immediately, preventing the strange mouth from enjoying its meal. The Dark Dragon Hound was left stunned for a second before it remembered that it couldn't die for real while training. It checked the munching mouth just nearby that still had blood dripping, and turned around to escape. Su Ping activated the killing intent skill right away, making the hound turn back and begin clawing at the enemy. Su Ping felt the ground beneath them quake. He quickly told the python to take him away. As soon as he retreated, he saw a creature climbing out into the open which was akin to an alligator, but with several thin legs covered in hard shells that looked like crab legs. It had a creepy unknown organ protruding from the top of its head, which was the mouth trap it had just used to capture the Dark Dragon Hound earlier. Its hardened body had many holes on both sides from where a good number of spiky tentacles were sticking out. No doubt that those were deadly weapons as well. Su Ping grimaced. That was a beast king. The Dark Dragon Hound tried intimidating it by howling, which didn't work so well. In return, the crab alligator responded with its own booming growl that instantly sent a chill inside Su Ping's body. The Dark Dragon Hound was snapped out of its berserk state, as it trembled and backed away. Su Ping summoned the Celestial Pig so it could join the action.